Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Against the Spread. We're back at it this week, college football edition. We do have our lovely Brennan back from the dead, finally.
Woo! Let's
Come on,
go.
baby. Here we go.
It's my boy Rich on the right.
What's up?
So big week of college football. A lot of unpredictable things happened. A lot of things we predicted happened, except in our best bet segment. But we do have some things. I did want to bring up some things before we actually jump into our first segment of the recap. How about Jimbo Fisher getting fired? Everyone kind of thought this was going to happen soon. It just happened to be were the boosters going to were they going to give up that money? What was it, 75 million to get him out?
Yeah, 77.
Yeah, so I know, Brennan, you really want to talk about this, so go ahead and kind of give your little 2 cents on it.
Hey, man. I've never really liked the guy, to tell you the truth. He was a decent football coach, but no, I thought it was pretty damn funny how they were showing off the check by their donors at halftime while Texas A&M is in their locker room. They're showing off the amount of money they got from their donors. I think it was like $160 million. I mean, oil money doesn't bother those guys over there. So, I mean, I can't even – what was his record there? Like 25 and 15 – or sorry, here we go. 45 and 25, awful. I mean, not good. When you got the talent you're bringing in at that school – I mean, what, number one class last year? I mean, top 10 classes a few times, and you're going 8-4, 6-6, whatever his records were. Like, that's just, I mean, can't keep that up there. They're ready to win. They're bringing in guys ready to win. So doesn't surprise me at all. Happy to see it.
Yeah, I think that coaching job is like primed to all they need is a good coach. I mean, you look at their last two coaches, it's been what, Jimbo and then Sumlin before that. But yeah, I think that job's primed to go. Obviously they got money they want to spend. I think we picked the wrong profession because you can be bad at your job when you're a coach and you can make millions of dollars for being off. Like, dude's making what? It's like 19 million in the next 6 months.
Yeah. I don't think he's too angry right now.
No. I'd be happier.
He's about to sell off in the sunset. I don't know. Who are you guys looking at specifically for the Texas A&M job? I know a lot of names have been kind of floated out. Some of them were Lane Kiffin, Glenn Schumann from Georgia, defensive coordinator. I saw James Franklin being a name that was mentioned. Yeah. There's some hot names right now. You have to go with dude. It has to be a home run. This hire has to be good. It cannot be a big name hire again just because you want it to be a big name. I think that's what it was with Jimbo. I think if you look at Jimbo's past and everything he's done, like Jameis Winston, he did phenomenal there, and he's kind of rested on those like royals of winning with him. But after that, the quarterbacks that he's had, I think I saw a stat or a thing the other day about it. It's like every quarterback he's had besides Jameis Winston has either like transferred or got hurt during the season or turned out to be a bust. Like he hasn't had a baller at a QB yet since Jameis.
Yeah. Is that they haven't had a baller at QB, or is that he just doesn't know how to develop QBs? I mean, could be a Jimbo problem. Who knows?
Yeah, but even when you see these guys transfer, like they don't really amount to anything. And I think that might be is it on him on who he's hiring as the offensive like coordinator or the quarterback's coach or whoever's going and recruiting these guys. What are you looking at specifically that's making you go, oh my God, dude, Connor Weigman, he's so good. Max Johnson, he's a baller. These guys don't scream like talent to me. And even if I think they have potential, but they're in the program and I don't see them growing really. And then like Haynes King went to Georgia Tech and he's like doing really, really well.
Yeah.
So it's
doing good.
confusing. It's confusing when you see these guys. First of all, it's like the one quarterback I've seen that's actually done well somewhere, but it's just confusing. You don't know if he's not developing these guys correctly, or if it's a culture problem there, or if there's
Yeah.
what's
Well,
going on.
you saw him have 3 quarterbacks last year, and none of them turned out good. Not a single one. I mean, he was stuck with one this
Yeah.
year, and he wasn't the best quarterback. I mean, he could get a little bit of offense turned around, but nothing special. That's kind of what I saw from him, and his whole tenure at Texas A&M has kind of just been bleh. And with that
Yeah.
kind of talent that you had, I think it was the best recruiting class ever last year, is what they touted, and they didn't do
Yeah.
anything with it.
Most of those
And
guys
I'll end
transferred
it.
too.
Yeah, I'll end it on this, man. It's going to be a scary job to take because it's going to turn into the Texas job. Like, if you don't perform in 2 years, you're out, and
Yep,
that's going to be the end of the story. They're just going to
exactly,
start cycling through freaking coaches over there. I know it because they're ready
exactly.
to win, and they're ready to win now.
And everybody
How
talks
many?
about how great of a job it is, and it's like, okay, well, they're gonna cycle through you pretty quickly because they got the money to do it
Yep,
apparently now. Like,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
in my opinion, I
yeah,
think there's one guy for the job who likes gambling, and his name is Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin is gonna
yeah.
be that guy for Texas A&M.
Uh,
And
um,
it goes back to what he was complaining about this week when they played Georgia. He said, "Oh, we just don't recruit good enough." Well,
yeah,
you
agreed.
know who can recruit good enough? They proved it.
Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
they
No,
true.
yeah,
proved
I
it without
agree.
an elite
That's
coach.
That's definitely what I would have what I was thinking too with Lane Kiffin. He was just
Yeah.
complaining about not being able to recruit enough, and his name was the first name that was mentioned when Texas A&M was brought up. So it makes sense. It's
Hmm.
going to be a fun little coaching carousel this offseason. I'm really excited to talk about it whenever that comes up for us. But another thing I wanted to just add before we went on to our first segment, I don't know if you saw this or not, guys, but the Liberty head coach was quoting a tweet from his school about their football game,
I didn't see
and
this.
his location was in Starkville, Mississippi, at the
Yeah.
Mississippi State. I
Here we
guess
go.
I guess he was interviewing for the head coaching job there. Liberty's done pretty
Yep.
well, so it would make sense. But that was hilarious. I saw they were like he learned a lesson, I guess, on
Old
Twitter.
Yeah.
people and their damn technology, man.
They'll figure it out.
All right, let's jump into this recap, guys. Really exciting week for us. So we got first game of the season, or first game of the week. We got Ole Miss, Georgia. This was a huge battle. Obviously, we had number 2 Georgia going against number 9 Ole Miss. Jackson Dart against Carson Beck. Huge QBs going against each other. Which team was going to prevail? I don't know. I think it was from a bias standpoint. I thought that Georgia had the better team, obviously the better roster. And the thing about playing Lane Kiffin, especially with how he runs his offense, he's going to go for it on fourth down a lot. He's going to fake punts. He's going to do all these things. He just has never really had a defense that could also back him up when he does these things. So you go and you go for it on fourth down. You get it. You go for it again on fourth down. You don't get it. Georgia scores immediately. Georgia already has been
Yep.
scoring every time they get the ball. You haven't stopped them once, not even kind of. I mean, just they're going for 10 yards a clip. They were
Yep.
averaging 10 yards a play. That's insane.
Yeah.
So you're going, obviously, you feel like you need to, and you are, but he already does it anyway. And then it just seemed like with every big game that Lane Kiffin is in, he's either going to win the game by making those decisions, or he's going to lose by a fuck ton
Yep.
because
Live or
of
die.
how he plays.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you guys have on this one?
Man, yeah, you said it was a battle, but it was a battle for about 3 drives. Ole Miss scored on their first 2, I believe. It was looking like, hey, dude, we might have a freaking game here. And then turns out, hey, guess what Ole Miss did? They hired fucking Pete Golding. That's your first mistake. Defensive coordinator who came from Alabama. I mean, Buddy was giving up 35 points a game at Alabama as a defensive coordinator with 5 stars all over the field. So I don't know what you thought you were going to get at Ole Miss. But yeah, I mean, anytime the Georgia Bulldogs have 610 yards of total offense, that game's going to be pretty lopsided. I mean, that's just outrageous. Kendall Milton finally showed up. I mean, 9 carries for 127 yards and 2
Legacy game for
tutties.
him.
That looks good for the Dogs if he can start running the ball like that. So, I mean, just a pretty lopsided win. Georgia showed why they're the number 1 team in the country yet again. As a Bama fan, I'm not ready to play them in the SEC championship, but Dogs are looking good as always.
Yeah, I think I mean you got to see the difference in Ole Miss as a program and Georgia as a program in that game. Georgia, it was close at first, and I think it was like the second quarter with 14 minutes left, and then somebody I was listening, I think maybe to Pate's podcast or something, and he said by 14 minutes left with the fourth quarter, Georgia was up
Mhm.
like 45-14. Like they hadn't scored, they hadn't done anything since then. If you're Ole Miss, and
Mhm.
Georgia's offense made that defense look disgraceful. I mean, like they were in. It was one A football and then one double A. It was really
Mhm.
bad. For Georgia, that's what you want to do though. You want to show everybody that you are the number one team going into November, December. So they took care of business way better than I thought they would take care of business, but they fucking took care of business. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Last thing I'm going to say is it's great to see it like these teams. Some of these teams starting to get fully healthy, like Georgia, losing Brock Bowers and then losing Amaris Mims, their starting right tackle, who's probably going to be the first right tackle or offensive tackle taken off the board in the NFL draft. So you start getting these guys back, and then you have your cornerback Kamari Lassiter and Javon Bullard playing at an all-time high level, let alone having a sophomore Malachi Starks and your DBs also a future first round pick too. So if Georgia starts getting healthy, which they have been, if they start playing at the level they played against Ole Miss, it's gonna be a good end of the season for the Dogs, or at least one to remember for the regular season. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad that I'm
think I
glad
had
the boys got
seen
to go out. Go ahead.
I think I'd seen another little stat that said Carson Beck wasn't touched one time by an Ole Miss player. So
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
yeah. None of the scrambles or anything, which was
Yeah,
pretty impressive. But all
yeah.
right, let's
I
go
mean,
into this Michigan Penn State game. This was a huge game
one
for
second, one second,
Michigan.
one second. Let me yawn and go to sleep real quick. All right,
yeah,
continue.
yeah. That's what
dude,
this game was. Snooze
dude,
fest.
I don't know. I'm gonna share my opinion on it. Y'all might not have the same opinion as me. Penn State struggled offensively, kind of what I predicted last week in the show. I thought they were going to struggle offensively against Michigan's defense. But if this was supposed to be like some kind of statement game for Michigan, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I do not think it was a statement game for them. I don't think the win looked phenomenal. I think their offense is very blah. They don't have a lot going on with it. I don't think JJ McCarthy's a first round quarterback. I think the only reason why their offense even moved the ball half the times was because JJ McCarthy can scramble, and that kept them moving. So I don't know. It was a bad game, and Penn State seemed like they were okay by losing by only 9 points or something. They didn't want to lose by 35, so they weren't taking any chances. They weren't throwing the ball down the field like they should have been. There was a minute and 30 seconds left, and they were letting the clock drop all the way down to 12 or 13 seconds before they were snapping it. That didn't seem like a team that
Mhm.
wants to win. That seems like a team that's okay with losing by
Yeah,
lower than the spread or whatever it was. So I don't know. It just pisses me off when I see teams play like that. When obviously you've been touted as such a good team, you're the number 9 team in the nation or whatever they were, 9 or 10 last week, and they go in and they play like that against Michigan, and it just makes Michigan fans especially feel good about their team. I just don't feel the same way. I feel like Michigan is a good team, but it didn't impress me. So
yeah. I mean, I think Michigan held back a lot in this game with the whole Harbaugh stuff. I think they were kind of trying to keep it simple, but I mean, dude, I saw this stat. I mean, on plays that counted outside of one play in the second half that was a pass interference on Penn State, they had 32 straight run plays starting with the final two plays in the first half. 32 straight run plays, dude.
That's called
I
fucking
mean,
smash mouth,
that's
baby.
kind of just yeah, that's just a big old fuck you against the best rush defense, like, I mean, in the country, in Power 5. Like, I mean, they just straight ran it down their throat. McCarthy threw the ball 8 times for 60 yards, all in the first half. He was 0 for 0 in the second half, except that one pass interference play. But, I mean, that's just embarrassing. I mean, to tout as the best defense or rush defense in the country, and then just, I mean, they were calling a run every single time. They weren't even going to try to throw the ball, and you still couldn't stop it. Pretty embarrassing for Penn State, but hey, they're right where they're supposed to be every freaking year, dude. I mean, we always get hyped up and hope that they're going to pull out a win against Ohio State or Michigan, and it never fucking happens. So, I mean, Drew Aller needs to work on his big game poise, but he was 10 for 22 with 70 passing yards. That's pretty awful.
Pitiful.
He's got something to work on. Penn State back to the drawing board as always. Maybe they can help us out next year.
Yeah. No, I'm actually kind of more so in a different boat than y'all. I think Michigan saw what they were going up against. If you watch like the first, I think 2 or 3 drives when they were throwing the ball, they weren't going to win the game that way. Penn State's rush defense was fucking for real. I mean, McCarthy would drop back, and I think he had maybe 2 seconds to get the ball out. I forget 33's name, but he was coming after the quarterback. He would speed around the edge, around the tackle, and then just immediately be in McCarthy's grill. I think they realized what they had to do to win the game, and that was just play ugly, boring football. And, that's what they did, and they just shoved it right down Penn State's throat. Honestly, shame on Penn State for not being able to figure that shit out. That's at home. You're not juiced up enough to stop a 32 run plays in a row. Come on now. Yeah. And then your offense, that was just abysmal offense from Penn State. I don't really give Michigan's defense any props for that. Like that was terrible from Penn State. They had no playmaking ability. The running backs looked slow. The offensive line, what the hell was that? I mean, come on now.
Yeah. I mean, Penn State's defense at that fourth quarter, I mean, they were actually getting some stops, giving the Penn State offense a chance to do something.
In plus territory at some points. Exactly.
Three and out. Drew Aller's throwing the ball 3 yards behind his wide receivers. I mean, it was just ugly.
Just abysmal offense. And then I don't think the play calling for Penn State, they never tried to drive the ball downfield. It was always these like weird out routes that they were throwing, or they're running the ball or throwing underneath. And that you're not going to beat Michigan that way. That's the exact game that Michigan wants you to play into, which is that slow paced. If you get into a clock management and field position game with Michigan, you're going to lose. I mean, that's just how it's going to work. I mean, because Michigan plays that perfectly. That's exactly the type of football they've been playing for the last 3 years. And, if they evolve from that, then they can beat teams like Georgia and Alabama, and they could probably win a college football playoff. But, they had to play that ugly brand of football to win this game.
Yep. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that Michigan had to play that kind of game. I think it turned out like that in the first half. They knew what they were going to have to do, and they just kind of sucked it up and ran the ball and put 9 offensive linemen on the field, which I'm not even kidding. That they actually put 9 offensive linemen on the field at one point. And we're letting it ride. So that's all I got to say about that one. Let's move on to Tennessee and Missouri. Man, this was a game for Missouri. They wanted to make a statement against Tennessee all week on social media. I was seeing Tennessee fans say they were going to beat the shit out of Missouri. Missouri wasn't as good as people made them out to be. Georgia didn't even beat them by a lot. We definitely have a chance. I think we're going to win. We're favored, or I think what were they favored by 1 point maybe? Or
it was a close. It was
close. 1.5,
something like that. Yeah. So I thought Missouri definitely was going to win this game. I was kind of concerned with Luther Burden. Didn't know if he was going to play or not. Ended up playing. So that boded well for Missouri. I think they use him as a decoy a lot though. But yeah, I mean, Schrader had 200 yards rushing again, and Tennessee and Missouri's defense really stepped up for him this week. And we did know that Missouri did have a really good defense. I mean, they showed it against Georgia. They sacked Georgia the most that Georgia's been sacked, I think, in the past 2 years last game. So they've been pretty impressive, and they held Tennessee to under I think it was under 85 rushing yards as a whole team. And Tennessee had 3 turnovers, 1 interception, and 2 fumbles. So anytime you get a team having 3 turnovers, like I said, you're winning the turnover battle. Missouri's definitely on the right side of things in that one. So it turned out good for them. I don't know. What do you think about Missouri, Brennan?
I think they're on the rise, man. I think they're going to be a scary team to play these next few years. Their coach is very good. They're building a program over there that's, back to the 2012, 2013 Missouri where shit, man, you don't really want to play them. And they play physical game. They play physical football, which, good, solid SEC football. So, I would have liked to see Georgia have to struggle against them in the East in the coming years, but, that's no longer a thing. And I've been so wrong about teams this year that have something to play for. You think about this game, you're like, Tennessee, man, they could beat Missouri, Ole Miss can beat Georgia, boom, Neyland Stadium, 3:30. Tennessee has a chance at the SEC East title.
Yeah, exactly.
And they come out and do this. I mean, God. I mean, that's probably Josh Heupel's worst game at Tennessee, if I have to guess. Just embarrassing. But hey, kudos to Missouri. They're a good football team, dude. That's all I got to say about that.
I think Missouri's kind of turning a corner. You don't really hear about what they do in the offseason because they're fucking Missouri. Let's be honest. Like you'll hear a lot about Tennessee, you'll hear a lot about Florida, you hear a lot about these other big SEC teams. You won't hear much about Missouri, but they really got something going on up there. And I've never seen Tennessee get beat that bad. Really, that was one of my first experiences ever seeing that. Maybe they were looking ahead to Georgia, but they didn't realize how good Missouri actually was. But that was just an ass beating that I watched on live television.
No, yeah, it was not good. It was not good for them. And that was a game which we talked about last week where I said Joe Milton was really going to have to play well. And he didn't play well at all. So next week is going to have to be a big week for Joe Milton if he wants
Another
to
point. I don't like the Missouri M. Can we please fucking stop taking Michigan's M everywhere we go? Just fucking leave it in Michigan. I don't want to see that.
Partial.
No, I agree. But hey, Missouri's recruiting really well, man. They obviously got Luther Burden. They got Dominic Lovett. That was at Missouri. Now he's at Georgia. But I think they have Ryan Wingo committed to him right now as another 5-star receiver. So they're getting good receiver talent to pair with that offense that they have. So I'm really liking.
Now is Brady Cook? How old is Brady Cook?
Ooh.
Do we know?
I don't know. I think he's draft eligible though.
Yeah.
God, he's an ugly motherfucker.
But I'd imagine he's definitely
a red shirt junior. Yeah, so I think he comes back. I mean, not in this quarterback draft at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a tough one this year. I think next year's draft class is going to be pretty stout at the end of it. But as of right now, it doesn't look too good for him to go this season. Let's move on to USC-Oregon. This was a huge game, obviously. What we talked about and what I wanted to stress last week was I think that Oregon is going to manhandle USC. I think they're going to make them look like a really bad football team, and I think they're going to disrupt Caleb Williams. I think that all came to fruition. I think all of that actually took place. Now, the score might not represent it because they didn't cover the 15.5 spread that was there, but they did let USC score, what is it, 14 points in the
13 in the fourth.
13 in the fourth or something like that. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that Oregon, they kind of just let off the gas pedal and that happens. And obviously they didn't cover the spread, but they looked great. Bo Nix looked great. He had 400 yards or let me see.
Yeah, 412.
Yeah, 400 yards and 4 passing touchdowns. He looked phenomenal again. That offense looks explosive like it always does, like it has the whole entire year. Oregon made USC and Caleb Williams look mediocre. He had 1 touchdown, I think. 1 touchdown.
Not a good
I don't know. It just, against these big teams, you don't see Caleb Williams really flashing like you would expect a guy who is going to be the number 1 overall pick to flash. And that's why a lot of draft analysts are kind of backing up on him a little bit. You're kind of seeing those mock drafts go Drake May at number 1 instead of Caleb Williams. And you have even Marvin Harrison Jr. going number 1 instead of Caleb Williams. So that's going to be kind of exciting to see in April of what's going to happen with the draft exactly, especially with how Caleb Williams has acted off field with his attitude and him wanting a share in the teams that he's going to go to. So I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, I don't know. Oregon didn't cover, but which kind of pissed me off. I know it pissed you off too, Brennan. Kind of tell me about what you thought about this one.
Yeah, no, like you said, man, classic case of just taking your foot off the gas. They kind of just got comfortable where they were at. And anytime you get comfortable against Caleb Williams in this offense, they're gonna sprout some shit up and make some plays happen and score in 4 play drives and pull out some crazy tricks. But no, I mean, Oregon's still proven they're one of the best in the country. I mean, they gave up 27, but they only given up 14 to USC and a half. It's pretty impressive. But yeah, like I said, man, just classic case of letting off the gas. Bo Nix still doing Bo Nix things, looking good. Um, Playing some damn good football. That wide receiver they got, freaking what's his name? Tez Johnson, 7 catches, 126 yards and 2 tutties. It's pretty solid. Now, man, give me the Oregon Ducks to win the Pac-12. That's all I'm seeing.
Yeah.
They're a damn good football team.
Hey, Beej, I got a question for you. Would you want to play this version of Bo Nix if he was still at Auburn?
Fuck no. I mean,
he
not
looks
rolling into Jordan Hare, dude. I mean,
he
we
looks
always tell you that.
completely different as a quarterback at Oregon, and he's
Yeah.
continuing to prove it. I mean, the last 2
Well,
years,
He's got better talent.
yeah, I think
way
he's
better
got a
talent at
little
wide
bit better
receiver.
talent, and I think he buys into the system more than when he was at Auburn.
big time.
Yeah, and now all of his experience is coming to play. So, we get to the Pac-12 championship, it's going to be a scary game for Washington, or if Washington makes it, we'll see. I mean, but yeah,
Looking like it right
we'll
now.
see. Yeah, looking like it right now. But that's all I got, really. I mean, Bo Nix is playing well. Oregon's doing exactly what we expect them to do. Yeah.
Hey,
Let's
now
get into the next one.
talking about Washington, we got Washington and Utah last week. This was a game we also covered. It's a tough one because you see Oregon go in there and beat Utah pretty bad a couple weeks ago, and now you got Washington coming there, and you're like, all right, so let's see where Oregon's going to stack up against Washington. How good do they look? What team's turning it on right now? What team's playing the best? And I really thought that Michael Penix played a really good game, over 300 yards. Their running back had over 100 yards rushing. They really made that Utah defense that is known for having a stout defense look pretty bad again this year. And that's the second time this year that Utah's defense has gotten embarrassed by one of the top teams in the Pac-12, which makes sense. I mean, that's going to happen against a inferior program sometimes. And then you have Utah. I think their quarterback turned the ball over once. And another point I wanted to bring up that their defense, their defense, 2 interceptions in this game, also showing up, which is something that I wanted to see more of. Was okay, can Washington's defense show up like it did in that Oregon game in the first half? Are they going to be able to have those turnovers and create havoc again? And it's looking like Washington is on the up and up again as well. So these two teams, Oregon and Washington, are going to meet at the perfect time when I feel like both teams are clicking. So it's just about who's going to win that game and who's going to get in the playoff. Basically, that's what it's going to come down to. Who wants it more?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Washington's got to start gearing up, right? And I think they only beat Utah by 7, but you kind of felt like Washington was in control for a majority of the game. Now, it was a little bit scary before that lineman got that interception and dropped it right at the fucking goal line.
The cover, yeah, I know.
It was a little bit
What an
scary
idiot.
there. Was it a recovery? Yeah, it was a little bit scary, but I think Washington's gearing up. At least the offense is gearing up at the right time. That defense looks like it's more of a turnover-based defense, so they'll let you drive down the field, but they'll capitalize off your mistake and then give it back to the offense, and you don't want the ball in Washington's offense hands. They got one more hurdle though. They got one more hurdle, and then they can have the right to play Oregon. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Beej, what you think?
Yeah, no, I think Washington showed some good stuff in that second half on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they were down 28-24 at half and won the second half 11-0. So for a team with that kind of offense to show that they can do that on defense if they need to. I mean, Utah doesn't have the best offense, but they've been putting up some points, and they obviously showed they could score in the first half. So for them to show that they can go out, make some adjustments, and get some stops on the defensive side of the ball is good for them. Showing up at the right time. I mean, they really, guys, they only had 2 slip-up games, really. Like midway through the season after that Oregon game, they kind of got, we're the best in the Pac-12. They kind of sat back a little bit, and then they were like, "Oh shit, we kind of need to start playing football again." So no, it's gonna be a damn battle. Which they got a big game coming up this week against Oregon State, and we'll see what they're made of. They're the dogs in that game, so
Yeah,
we'll talk
somehow.
about that more. But it's gonna be a good game.
Yeah, if Washington keeps it turned on after that Oregon win, I think they're in the top four right now. I think the only reason why they're not because if you look at both strength of schedule between them and Florida State, they have a better strength of schedule and they have better wins. So
Mm-hmm.
if they did keep it turned on and
Yeah.
right because they kind of fell off right when the committee was ranking, right? So
Yeah.
that's the first impression the committee's getting is okay, you're slowing down. You're slowing down. Florida State's not. Let's go ahead and keep Florida State in. We're going to keep you out because we don't feel
Yeah.
like you have your heart in it
And
right
it's not
now.
like Arizona State's a good football team. Arizona State's an awful football team. So,
But damn, dude, Florida State's done the same thing. They beat Boston College by 2 points. Like, it's not like Florida State's
that's
out here dominated everybody they've played. Like, Washington has a way better win than Florida State has. So I don't
true.
really know why the hell Washington's behind them. But hey, leave it up to the college football committee. They
Yeah, college
know it
football
all.
Fuck up
playoff.
every chance they get, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they're definitely their rankings this year are kind of wishy washy on what they're kind of basing it on. It's not
mhm,
completely strength of schedule or eye test or what the team looked like when you played them, how you're playing recently, are you in a full swing, are you healthy? Like these are the things they said they're basing it off, but usually you want them to have some kind of emphasis on some kind of thing. Like usually the committee has had an emphasis on your strength of schedule or the eye test or one of these things. They don't have an emphasis. They said they're taking it all into account on what it looks like
yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's tough to judge teams based on all of it because no one's going to agree. I bet you the committee is just like I bet you they're all
Is that our next segment, Zach?
yes, that's our
Okay.
next second is the college football playoff. Let's go
Yeah,
ahead and
let's
go
hop
into
into
it.
that shit.
Yeah, because
We're primed.
we're already prime ready. We're talking about it, so we're getting into it.
yep,
So college
let's
football
do
playoff,
it.
their rankings obviously they did switch it up this week. They got number one at Georgia. They finally followed us in this situation and put Georgia at one. We've had Georgia at number one for the past couple weeks now. They have Ohio State at two, Michigan at three, and Florida State at four. Like we were just talking about, Washington's right out at five, and then Oregon is behind them at six. For ours, we are going to have Georgia at one again. We do have Ohio State at two. At three, we have Oregon. And then four, we have Michigan, I believe. Yep.
Yep.
So we kind of switched it up a little bit this week. We have Michigan at four. We moved Florida State down a little bit. I just feel like Michigan's been a little bit more impressive recently than Florida State. I don't know. I feel like Michigan has a better win with their win against Penn State, even though I don't think it was crazy impressive. You have to give it up to them that they did run the ball that many times against the number one rushing defense in Power Five football and made them look like they knew that what was coming, right? And they made them look bad. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You have to put them at four, in my opinion. I think they deserve that finally. And I think the one thing I was looking for was this team going to look good with all this chaos going around the program right now. And then number three, we have Oregon still. I know this is kind of a hot topic, especially with the against the spread team here. Um, we have Oregon at three because I feel like and we feel like as a team, Oregon looks really good right now and they're on the up and they're playing their best football when it matters. So that's why we have Oregon at three. I know it doesn't look like the college football playoffs top four because they have it ranked right now. But by the way, they have it ranked, but this is what we think based on what we're looking at right now. We're big eye test people and we're going solely based off that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, no.
I mean, besides Bama, these are the top four physical teams in college football right now. Florida State got into a kind of a physical match with Miami. And that game looked again. It was ugly for Florida State. I'm not going to fault them because it was a rivalry game, but but still, it didn't look as good as convincing as Michigan's win, and then as convincing as Oregon's wins have looked recently. Ohio State, we know that they're changing brand. They're not that offensive team that they typically are all the time. They're that physical, grind it out on defense, and then they're going to bring their quarterback along as they go. And then, Georgia at 1, obviously, we've been saying it for weeks. They're the best team in college football. I'm looking forward to them versus Bama, and that's going to be that has potential to fuck up this entire ranking. Like, cause that is the college football playoffs' worst nightmare if Alabama wins. Because then what do? Do you put Texas in, or do you put a 1-loss Georgia?
I mean, Georgia wouldn't even get the chance, man. That's why I'm sick of these freaking college football rankings because,
all right, let's hear the rant. Here we go.
I mean, listen, this is what happens when you hype up the fucking Pac-12, dude. I mean, Oregon's got the 65th ranked strength of schedule. Washington's got the 75th. Bama has the 8th best strength of schedule. Like, Oregon's 1 loss, yeah. It's to Washington on the road. Cool. But, the other teams they played ain't shit. Alabama, sorry we played Texas week 2. Lost were a completely different team.
That was a completely ugly loss. That was a terrible loss at home, though.
Yeah, it wasn't a great loss, but completely different team now. Week 2, you got to give us the credit we deserve in these last few weeks. What's really going to piss me off, though, is when you look at the history of the college football playoff, like say Bama does beat Georgia in the SEC championship, you're going to tell me you're going to keep out a team that's won the college football playoff, 4-5 times, and then you're going to also keep out the back-to-back national champions to put in fucking Washington and Oregon, or fucking Michigan. It's like, dude, there's no chance you're going to leave out the SEC champion and the back-to-back national champions.
I think that's exactly what they're telling you, though.
Yeah, but that's where they're wrong, and that's where they're stupid as hell. Because you're talking about teams that Pac-12 has made it to the college football twice. They've won 1 game, and that was Oregon back in 2015. Big 12's made it 5 times, I think. But dude, it's going to be annoying if that's the case, and you somehow. I don't think there's any way in hell you leave out Alabama if they beat Georgia. That'll be the best win in the country at that point. But the way they wouldn't leave right now, that's what
they wouldn't leave Bama out.
Yeah, but the issue is if Bama beats
because Georgia would drop out. Georgia would drop out. They would move everybody up. I think. I think they would move Bama above Florida State, to be honest. And I think you'd have Ohio State, Michigan, Bama, Florida State.
Michigan I think whoever loses to Ohio State, Michigan.
But Zach, what you're saying is so if Bama beats Georgia. Let's say Ohio State, Michigan wins out. That's a death match at 2 and 3. That's what they have basically set up. So, so Bama beats Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan are in that 1 slot. Obviously, Florida State wins out, Washington wins out, then Texas wins out, and Texas starts playing November football that we're talking about, where everybody starts gearing up and looking better. What do you do? You can't leave the SEC champ out, right?
So no, I don't think they leave Bama out at all. I think if anyone thinks Bama would be left out is not right at all, because Bama would get in 100%. They have the best one in the country, and they've also beat other teams, and that's why their strength of schedule is so high right now.
Top 25.
Exactly, yeah. So at the time when they played them, and then you have Ohio State or Michigan, whoever wins that. Now I don't know who's going to win it, but I think whoever loses is going to be out, because the tough thing about that is they don't have another deciding game like Oregon and Washington are. Now, do you punish? This is what's tough, is like you're punishing Washington if they lose to Oregon, when if Ohio State and Michigan had the exact same situation happen to them, that team would be punished as well. Like if Ohio State went and they beat Michigan, they go in, they play in the Big Ten, which is going to happen. That's going to happen. That's how the Big Ten's moving going forward.
Yeah.
And then they go into the Big Ten championship, and then Michigan beats Ohio State. Now you're taking out Ohio State after they won. And so you're doing essentially the same thing to Washington, even though I think Oregon looks like the better team than Washington right now, but you're doing the same thing to them. So that's what's tough about the situations. You have all these things that are going to be going on, and I think Texas is primed for the Big 12 championship.
But I think right now, I think though that's a testament to the evolution as the season goes, because you can't sit here and tell me like if Oregon's the better team at the end of the season, then they've just shown that they've made the right adjustments at the right
Yeah,
times and they're playing
but
better football at
Ohio State and Michigan played two week or the last week of
yeah.
the year.
And whoever loses that game is out.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
Death match.
What I'm saying is, okay, this could happen every year from now on. They could
Yeah, but-
be
Yeah.
they
Well,
could be both undefeated going into the last game of the season
it
and
does
play
happen.
each
It pretty
other.
much does happen every year.
That's what I'm saying though. That's what I'm saying though. So it's the same thing as how Georgia and Bama are when they are undefeated going into the SEC championship, and this happened in 2018. And then Georgia loses. Georgia gets left out for Ohio State, and everyone thought Georgia should have been in that year, and not Ohio State. So this is what the fucking problem is with the committee so far, is that there's only 4 teams. I'm not saying it needs to be bigger. I'm saying it just gets down to these situations where it doesn't seem that fair with how the conferences are balanced out, because some teams have to play teams twice, and and then if you're gonna hurt a team by that, I think you should only be able to help teams by that, not hurt them, because you're hurting a team that's losing to a team that they already beat.
This goes back to your conversation earlier. No, like they have to have some kind of criteria. They can't just say everything. What the fuck does everything mean? Like you can't just say, "Oh yeah, we're ranking people by everything."
Yeah,
exactly.
Everything essentially means nothing at that point. Like you could fucking rank them off the record, and then be like, "Oh, but they're healthier."
They're saying that so they don't have to give you specific reasons.
Yeah,
and because if you ask for one thing, they can be like, "Oh, we're ranking it off this, not that." It's like, "Oh, but what about this team? Oh, we're ranking them off of this."
Exactly. Yeah, like that's bullshit.
Mean?
They're gonna have
Georgia
break that down.
Like so, Florida State's ranked off of. I think they said recency on who they've played and when they played them and who's healthy. Okay, gotcha. What about Washington? Strength of schedule. Okay, their strength of schedule is better than Florida State. So why are they not in? Oh, because recently they haven't played as well as Florida State. Okay, what the fuck are you basing it off of? What are we basing this off of?
Everything
because you're
means
like,
nothing.
Yeah.
You're hurting teams by some things and you're helping them by other things. It doesn't make sense. It should be equal.
Yeah, and Texas has won their last 2 games by a combined 6 points, but has stayed right in the same spot. I mean, while Bama's just absolutely dogging people, and we don't move an inch. And it's like, I mean,
and then the thing that he said about that, the commissioner said it's because we're respecting the head-to-head matchup against Bama and Texas.
Okay.
Which I get, I guess, but then if you're going to bring up another team like Georgia and say that, oh, Georgia has beaten teams lately by a lot and looked really good.
Yeah.
So is Bama. So why would Bama not be ahead of them?
Then if you're going to respect the head-to-head matchup and Bama beats Georgia, then Texas's win against Bama looks that much better, and they should be in. If we're gonna,
I also want everyone to know that I think that Bama is like the number 5 or 6 team in the country. Yeah. I think that Bama is definitely right there, and they're in the mix, especially if you're going to the SEC championship. I don't care what anybody says. You're a top 10 team, and you're a very good team.
Hey,
no, not biased. SEC is
go ahead and
look at Brennan's backdrop he's got going on. There's a little bit of bias.
Look it up, buddy. What conference has won the fucking national championship the last 6-7 years?
Look, I know. I'm just saying this season
There's a reason.
Could be different. Could be.
And what was the final score to the national championship last year? I don't know, 68-7 or something.
The football committee doesn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, that's because they let TCU in last year, which I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't have got in, because I think they earned their spot though. That's also the tough thing when you only have 4 spots is same thing. I think with what you have with Florida State this year, they're probably going to go undefeated and they're going to earn their spot to get in. Now, I don't know if they're actually going to be able to beat any of these teams in the playoff though. Yeah. Like I think whoever they play, they're going to struggle heavy with, because
they're going to lose
of how their offense is. Their offensive scheme is fucking shit. Their offensive scheme is bad. It is not good at all. When they start playing really, really good teams, and when they go into the playoff and they play a really good team that is going to be able to defensively scheme up against those stuff, especially if you're playing at Georgia or you're playing at Michigan.
Playing Georgia, you're fucked.
But
another thing about Florida State is if we're gonna say this thing off of like healthy or how they've been playing recently. They played Clemson when Clemson was terrible. They played Miami at
Mm-hmm.
Miami's low. Like
Yeah.
they haven't been playing great teams at good
Yeah.
times. So this undefeated
Well, yeah,
record,
because here's the thing, dude. If you just go, oh, you went undefeated, here's your spot, you get fucking Cincinnati in the playoff. Like, dude, who gives a shit about, oh, you won your 12 games, here's your trophy, like you're into the Final Four. Like, no, we as college football fans want to see the best fucking 4 teams in the country battling it out so we don't get a Georgia TCU national championship because that's
Because
what we don't want to see.
how many times has um the lower seed, or no, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase this question because I think the lower seed has happened. But in the
happened with
semi
Georgia.
playoff game, right? When
Yeah.
you have the semis going on, how many times
Mm-hmm.
has that game been like a one score game?
Not too often.
I
Well, I
think
guess
it's the
last year's both were one scores
yeah,
games,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
surprisingly.
agree. I agree.
But
But I think
but
that Michigan
before that,
also Michigan also fumbled the bag because they didn't go and scout
yeah.
TCU on the sidelines and shit before, so they would have beat them, I think. But
No,
um,
looking at years prior, there's maybe been 2 or 3 in all of college football playoff that in the semis it's been a good game, and that includes the Georgia-Oklahoma Rose Bowl game. That was
yep,
absolutely nuts. Um, we got
Florida
Ohio
State,
State
Oregon.
Clemson in 2020, and then Ohio, and then those games last year. So like 4 games out of all the playoff like scheduling over the years has been good in the semifinals.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
typically
not
blowouts.
it's not looking good this year for like the two SEC teams to make it like usually because I
Yeah,
think that Bama's loss obviously fucked that opportunity up because I do
yeah,
feel like Bama's moving in the right direction of being a top 4 team, but
hmm
they came on too late. So now the
yeah,
committee's not respecting them and it's later. So the worst thing you want to happen, especially for Georgia, is for the committee not to respect Bama as much
yeah,
because if you lose to them, now your loss is not going to be respected as much
yeah,
as a loss like Oregon took to Washington earlier in the season. So
yeah,
that's the tough part about only having 4 teams. It's just not going to be respected the
yeah,
same way because obviously the committee's not looking at Bama like everyone else is looking at Bama
yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
they're still looking at that offense. And
And
although
I
the
mean, I'd
offense,
love. Uh,
go
sorry,
ahead,
I
Beach.
was just gonna say I'd love nothing more than to not like for Bama to win the SEC championship and not have to play Georgia in the college football playoff. But like, you can't tell me just because Georgia maybe loses by a field goal or one score to Alabama in the SEC championship, they don't as back-to-back national championships. You don't want to see them in the playoff like for another chance at another title. Y'all, you're gonna leave them out of the chance of winning a three-peat because they lose their final game of the season in the SEC
Hey,
championship against probably the hottest team in college football. Like that just sucks.
dude, let me tell
That
you
just sucks.
this. Let me tell you this. Honestly, I think Georgia and Alabama going into that game will be the 2 hottest teams in football, playing
Yeah,
at their
yeah,
highest. But
yeah,
also, if Georgia doesn't get in the playoff, because if they lose to Alabama in the SEC championship,
hmm
I promise you, Kirby Smart is going to put up fucking 80 points against whoever they play
yeah.
in the bowl game.
Oh
He's
yeah,
going to fucking sit there and keep
big time.
Carson Beck in that fucking game all 4 quarters and going to have his number 1 defense in, and they're going to beat
Yeah.
that team 80 fucking points. They're going to put up so many fucking points on that team because of
Yep.
I swear to
Yep.
God he will. You know he will too. That's how he felt
Yep.
when they played LSU last year in the SEC championship. He felt
Yeah.
disrespected
Yeah.
because
Sure.
they thought it was going to be a good game, and he put 50
I would
something
love for
points on them.
to see someone just get snubbed. Georgia still make it, and Texas to just be like, sorry guys, you just been playing shitty football. Cool, you beat Alabama in the second game of the season, but you suck. So
Yeah,
A
it'd be nice
little
to see
bit of
something like
hate in
that
that
happen.
statement.
But hey,
All right.
dude, we have so much left in the season. This is
Yeah.
going to be so great. We're going to make this segment longer for you guys every week, kind of like this as well for us to discuss it a little bit more. I feel like the past couple of weeks we just kind of going through it, but now I feel like it's the point in the season for us to have these conversations because it's getting real, and we only got a couple weeks left for us to discuss this like that. So It's best time of the season for us. So let's go into our next segment. We got the upcoming games of the week. This is a pretty light slate this week, guys. I mean, everyone knows that it is not a great week for the college football
Calm
fans.
before the storm of rivalry week.
But yeah, exactly. I was about to say that. These rivalry week is coming up next week. So we have huge games going on next week. Georgia gets to play fucking Georgia Tech, man. I'm so excited. I know, Rich, you're so excited for that game.
I'm excited to
But
watch
no,
Georgia
I
Tech
mean,
lose by 30 this year instead of 40.
yeah. All right. So first game, we got Louisville and Miami. I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed a little bit, especially I was kind of watching that Louisville game last week. They were 20.5-point favorites, and they're winning by 7 against a really, really bad Virginia team. I know this is also something I kind of want to bring up. Miami should be 8-2, and they're 6-4 right now. That's why I think this spread is so low. Also, I think they're basing it off of Louisville hasn't really had to play the hardest teams in the ACC yet. They haven't played. I think how many of the top 3 teams have they played in the ACC?
None.
Like
they
below
haven't had to play
themselves.
Clemson.
Yeah.
They haven't had to
They
play
haven't played
Clemson. They haven't
Clemson.
had to
They
play
haven't had to play
UNC.
Florida State.
They don't play Florida State. So like
They
they
don't.
don't play the
They
top
got the
30 pretty
easiest
much.
draw in the whole SEC or
Yeah,
ACC. So.
exactly, and that's also why people are looking at this game like, oh, this is a 1.5-point spread. I don't care if you're away at Miami, because Miami could easily win this game.
Easily.
I think the only thing that kind of sucks for Miami is they went ahead and they took Van Dyke out last week, and they were like, all right, we're going to go with this guy, Emory Williams, I think his name is.
Yeah.
We're going to go with Emory, our freshman. We're going to kind of put him in
He
and
was
see what he
pretty
does.
good, though.
And he was pretty good. Problem is, kid gets hurt, like snaps his arm in half. And so now you have
back to the basics.
Now you have Van Dyke back in the game, and now his confidence is shot. Either the two things. Either this quarterback has his confidence shot to hell, and that's a huge thing for QBs, or it's going to put a fucking pep in his step, and he's going to play way better. Because his touchdown to interception ratio is fucking awful. I think he's almost even with his touchdown to interception. So
yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's really bad. But this Louisville team, it's hard to kind of gauge how they are, right? I think Louisville's a good team, but also they haven't really had to play anybody. So it's a tough one to dissect. Brennan, what do you think about Miami this year?
Yeah, no, I mean, Miami's definitely been a upsetting team this year. They started off looking great, thinking, "Oh shit, they might win the ACC." Like, damn, they're playing good football. I mean, very talented roster there. I mean, they're a physical football team. Problem is, like you said, you named it, Tyler Van Dyke, 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I mean, when you turn the ball over that much, I think they average like 3 turnovers a game in conference play, I believe. So when you average that many turnovers in conference play, you're not winning any of those football games. I think Miami is easily the better roster. I think they're easily the stronger team. So look for Miami to kind of try to go a simple approach here. Maybe just use their power over Louisville and just dominate this game in the trenches, maybe low scoring. But I'm looking for the Miami Hurricanes to beat Louisville here, shake them up a little bit, and then we want to see Louisville go into that ACC championship and knock off Florida State. Then some of these problems we were discussing earlier will get fixed. We don't have to worry about these guys anymore. But no, I think Louisville is going to get upset this week. I think Miami plays a slow game, just beats them to hell, and shows them that Louisville's not who everybody thinks they are.
Yeah. Miami has the better roster here. Louisville is the hotter team. I don't think Louisville has really played all that great this season. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think if Louisville ends up losing this game, somehow UNC can maybe get into the ACC championship, which I think would be a much better matchup with Florida State than Louisville. I could be wrong, but yeah, I think Miami has the better roster. They showed last week that they can play with good teams, so they're kind of in like we're gonna take this upset spot. They got to start building for next year, getting the recruits going. So I look for a Miami upset here as well, Beach.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no. So I'd seen Rich. It's Louisville clinches if they either win this game or UNC loses one of their last two games against Clemson and NC State, which is very likely that UNC loses one of those games. But so I don't know how that matches up. If UNC wins their last two, Louisville loses this, they're tied at a 6-2 record at ACC. I don't know how it goes from there, what tiebreaker is, but yeah, like
I think
you
the
said, I'd
tiebreaker's
agree.
kind of weird for it. I think it go off like points and shit if it's
Opponent
not head to
record
head.
or
Like
opponent points or some
it's
shit like that.
weird. Yeah, it's definitely a weird thing,
Probably
but
point differential in conference play, if I had
something
to
like
guess.
that. Something like that. Let's go to the a way better game and one of the hottest teams in the nation right now, playing in a pretty scary environment. We have Georgia and Tennessee coming in. Georgia's going to Tennessee, going to Knoxville. Like I said last week, Rich, when me and you were talking about this upcoming game a little bit, um, Georgia has to go into Tennessee at 3:30. If they would have went with this at, I'm sorry, they go in there at 7:30. If they would have went last week and done the Missouri game at 3:30 and the Georgia game and Ole Miss game at 3:30, this would have been a 3:30 game in Knoxville. So that would not have been fun. Or I'm sorry. Dang, I got this shit mixed up, don't I?
7 o'clock.
Hold on.
It's at 3:30.
Hold on.
Night
at
game in
3:30.
Knoxville would have been bad.
I know.
Yeah.
What I'm
Yeah.
saying is this has been a bad night game.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You're right.
But yeah, this would have been a bad night game in Knoxville. Instead of getting to play at 3:30 during the day, maybe the crowd's a little bit quieter. But I do know that Tennessee has one of the scariest environments to play at in the SEC, especially SEC East. The spread is 10.5, though. I think things that you're looking for here is Georgia's offense is kind of rolling right now. They got a bunch of people healthy again, like we were talking about earlier. Offensive line looked really, really good. They're not just playing those 5 guys at offensive line. They're playing, now that they're healthy, they're playing 8 guys now. They're rotating offensive linemen. You only see that when you have recruiting like Georgia has had over the past 5, 6, 7 years, just constantly bringing in solid talent and guys that are going to stay in the program. So that's a huge thing for Georgia this week, is to have guys coming back and then to be able to rotate some people in, get fresh legs on the field, especially in that scary environment. You want to see them lead out or come out to a big jump. So they want to start off hot like they did against Ole Miss. Only thing is you don't want Tennessee to keep up with you. So their defense has had the poor breakouts, and then when it comes to the beginning of the game, when they've let teams kind of stay in it in the beginning. They did this the past couple games. So you want them to kind of jump out early and stay ahead, because if you take this Tennessee crowd out really early, it's gonna not bode well for Tennessee. And then also we'll kind of see what Joe Milton does. He's gonna have to have a big game. Can this Tennessee offensive coordinator scheme up some stuff to confuse these freshman linebackers that are going to have to come in for Georgia? Georgia lost their middle linebacker, JDJ. So it's going to be kind of tough for these guys. I know last week there was a couple plays that Ole Miss ran that were confusing the linebackers. These guys are young. Their first game was last week, their first start. So these guys are young and they're going to kind of get confused sometimes. So maybe have Joe Milton run a little bit more. Maybe have them leak out some guys in the zone coverage or something like Ole Miss did that was confusing the linebackers. But it's going to be a really good game. I'm excited to kind of watch it. But I don't know, Brennan, what do you think Tennessee's going to have to do to kind of stay in this one?
I mean, Joe Milton's just going to not have to make any mistakes, but Georgia's probably got the best secondary in the country. So, I mean, going against guys like that, he's probably going to struggle a little bit. I don't think they can get much of a run game going against this defense either. So, yeah, number one, no mistakes. Number two, yeah, I mean, maybe jump out early, but the problem is Tennessee just can't play for 4 quarters. If you ask me, they seem to play 2 good quarters of football, and then that's about all they can give it to you. So, and Georgia's obviously the king of playing 60 minutes and dominating you the whole way. So, yeah, look for Carson Beck to have another good game, big game. I think Georgia tries too hard in this one. I think they're going to try to keep it light, keep it slow, stay healthy for the SEC championship coming up. But hopefully they don't look at it as a look ahead spot, because Neyland Stadium is not a place you want to have a look ahead spot in. But no, man, I think Georgia's gonna continue to show us why they're the number one team in the country in this one. Give me dogs big.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on this one. Georgia's gonna beat the shit out of them, and Tennessee can't play from behind. So if Georgia jumps out early, I don't think that Tennessee even has a shot to come back. So
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah,
nice and easy.
it's gonna be a yeah, no, it's gonna be a tough one
This
for
is coming
Tennessee
from a
to have
Tech fan.
to.
Georgia's gonna beat the shit out of them then.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Neyland's kind of scary. So you want to jump out to a big lead there and make sure that 100,000 fans get shut up quick. So hopefully they can do that. Let's move on to our next biggest game of the week. We have Washington and Oregon State. Um, Crazy thing here, I really was not expecting it, but Oregon State's favored.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make sense to me on like a power ranking scale. I don't think that Oregon State has a better team or roster than Washington. I also don't think that I don't know where you would give them the edge, like where they would be favored. Because if you have them favored in this game by 2.5, obviously it's about a pick 'em. And in my opinion, I think Washington should easily be a 2.5, 3-point favorite in this game. Um, and I mean, I know Oregon State has DJ, and he has played really well this season. He's been really efficient, done what he's had to do. They do have really good running back play, though. Their running back scored 4 touchdowns last week against Stanford, which was really, really impressive. The guys looked really good all year.
Mhm.
So I think that's a huge part for them, is staying balanced and just staying consistent in that way. And trying to make Washington's defense a little confused. And I think they've done a really good job the whole year of staying balanced, which has helped them to their 8-2 record so far. Washington, I think for the biggest thing for them is Michael Penix going to have a good game, and maybe like what you were saying, Rich, last week, is stay on the field a little bit longer. Try not to score as much. You don't want your defense to be in a situation where they're getting ran down for 4 quarters by that running back, especially with how DJ's playing. It's so efficient, man. You don't want your defense to be on the field so much, because just as fast as Washington can score, then you're sitting on the sidelines for, I don't know, maybe half a quarter, 8 minutes of a quarter, and they're just running the ball, giving you a 5-yard out, giving you a 7-yard slant. They're just kind of digging you. And then when Washington comes back on the field, offense, they're kind of slow. Maybe they get a 3 and out. Now you don't have the ball for almost 2 quarters.
Yeah.
And the score's like
Mhm.
14-7. So if Oregon State can do something like that and kind of slow the game down and make it just a trenches game, that's something they could do to win this game. If they give Washington the ball and turn the ball over, it's going to be over quick. You can't make a mistake against an offense like this and expect to stay in it. So that's what I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And no, I think Oregon State's got to play the same kind of archetype that we're talking about. Don't give Penix the ball. Don't turn it over. I think this team is capable of doing that. I think they have a pretty good run game. You saw it with Utah last week. You can kind of lean on that against Washington. So I think if they don't turn the ball over and they play and lean into that running game, then Washington can be beat. No matter how
Mhm.
quickly they can score, you can beat them. It was the same kind of when Mahomes came to the NFL. It was the same kind of strategy that the Patriots did with them. They were just slow. They just didn't hand him the ball. It can happen. So I don't know why Oregon State necessarily is favored here. It might be an upset spot. I mean, Washington is leaving
Yeah.
them next year. So it's the same thing with Oklahoma State the other week, where it's like, oh, fuck you, you're leaving us. You're leaving us for dead, essentially.
Yeah.
We can see what happens.
No, I mean, I think you guys touched all the points, man. Just control the run game, keep the ball, don't turn over the ball, and just find a way to get some third down stops. Don't let Washington get in these third and long situations and complete those third downs, because that's just going to absolutely kill your crowd. You got to keep the crowd in this game. You got to keep that stadium loud.
Yep.
And just don't turn over the ball. Which shit, DJ's only got 4 picks on the year. That running back Martinez for Oregon State's already 1,000-yard rusher through 10 games. So they like to run the ball. So yeah, control the clock, don't turn over the ball, get some stops on third downs, and I guess why not, man? Let's go Oregon
Let's
State.
ride Beavers.
We need if we want the 2 SEC teams in, we're gonna need some big upsets, and
Let's
big
go
things to
Beavers,
happen
baby.
for these things to
Come
go.
on.
So yeah, we're going with them 2.5.
But we're not biased.
No. Hey, we spend a lot of time on the college football playoff this week, so our upcoming games of the week are going to be a little cut short. We are going to head to our best segment of the week. Might be the worst. Depends on if you bet with us or fade us. Kind of depends on that.
Yeah.
Dude,
We're
college
gonna call
football
it
is
the
one of the
fade
hardest.
train.
Dude, college football is one of the hardest things to bet, especially in the end of the season when these spreads are so narrow and they're getting so accurate in Vegas. It's getting kind of a tough situation for us, the boys here, but we're still riding. Like I said in the beginning of the season, we're not a betting podcast show. We are a college football show, a part of Against the Spread, obviously. So we do like to make picks, and we do like to have a little bit of fun. I do want to say this though: if you would have faded us last week, I think you put that right there in a parlay. I think
You
you're
don't have to bring
making
this up.
$900. You're making 900.
Yeah.
You're making
950.
900. Yeah. So hey, maybe that's a thing to do next week. See if you can fade us in a parlay and see if you hit on a big one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, man,
Leave some comments.
dude.
Comments.
It's all fun, man. This is why it's so fun. That's why college football is such a fun topic to speak about, because you have a game like let's just say one of these teams, Oklahoma State, one of these teams that you guys were riding
That
on the
wasn't
past 2
fun.
weeks. No, but
That
this
wasn't
is the
fun.
thing about it though. They go and they
Yeah.
beat Oklahoma, and they have a great game the next week and also cover. And then everyone's like, okay, hold on, Oklahoma State might be that team. They're on like a 5-game winning streak. They're looking like one of the best teams in the Big 12. And then boom, they go and get smacked
45
last
to
week.
3.
Fucking
They go and get
mollywopped.
smacked last week,
I
dude.
know.
And that's the thing is like that's what I was saying last week when we were doing our bets. Is like, dude, you don't know what's going to happen to Oklahoma State
I was
because
just riding the
college,
Cowboys.
dude. College football,
Yeah.
college football is such an up and down thing with these kind of teams that are
Mhm.
inconsistent. There could be good for 6 weeks in a row, and they could just shit the bed and score 0 points the next week.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to
Yep.
bet these games, but
They're college
I really
kids,
do.
man.
I know. I really do love this segment, but let's go into our
What do we
bets.
got?
What do we have for Rich here?
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna start this off by I looked up a rock bottom quote, and one by Ludacris popped up. So we're gonna quote Ludacris to start this off. When you hit rock bottom, there ain't nowhere to go but up, baby. The great
Yeah, come
Ludacris
on,
once
baby.
said that. So,
Shit.
with that being said, we are gonna take Utah +1. I don't think they have any right being a dog. I just still think they're one of the best teams in the Pac-12, and I don't think their coaching staff is going to allow them to lose 2 in a row. Yeah, they're playing a hot Arizona team, but Arizona's been playing a little bit over their heads, I think, for the past 4 or 5 weeks. Same kind of scenario that Oklahoma State had. They've been on a streak. They're hot. You got to keep those kids up, and then you got to play a Utah team that plays like a grimy, mucky game. So give me the Utes, baby. They're going to have a winning season one way or the other, and they're going to keep it up. And then I'm taking USC -6.5. I know we are an anti-Caleb Williams show, but this week we are going to take the painted fingernails and 6.5 points. So we are going to he's going to score. He's going to score. I mean, he's playing UCLA, and then Chip Kelly also. I think they announced that they were going to fire him this week. So I think the team's a little dejected from that coming into this game. And Caleb Williams has got to get his draft stock up because I think Zach's over here saying he's not going to be the number 1 pick. So he's got to make Zach a believer. And then he's only got a couple weeks left to make Zach a believer.
It's not me saying it. It's the
It's
draft
your
analyst.
sources, man.
Don't quote me, dude. Hey. Also, told you guys last week that Brock Bowers was going to play.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We did have an inside source at Georgia.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm telling you, I got him.
What you got,
Go ahead,
Beej?
Brennan.
Give us the picks.
Well, I'm hoping this is just a gimme. I mean, UGA -10 against Tennessee. I'm just looking for a gimme at this point. 0-4 record. Last week I was sick, man, a little out of my mind. Don't know what I was thinking. All right, but yeah, I mean, UGA UGA, hey, they get up for these games, man. Kirby Smart likes to just beat the hell out of whoever he can, especially in SEC East. Likes to show him who's boss around there. So give me UGA by 3 touchdowns, honestly. Iowa, man. Hey, Iowa at home is like that Utah defense at home, man. I mean, those guys just don't budge. Rich faded them last week. Got embarrassed on
Don't
that
do it.
pick.
Don't fucking do it.
Yeah, I like Iowa in the spot here at home versus their conference opponent. So I think their defense shows up as always. They're stout D on that side of the ball, man. I like to see them. Let's go Iowa -3 over the Illinois.
Another
Illinois
thing, I faded Iowa. Not only did I fade Iowa, I didn't take the under or the over, but I thought 28 points was absurd for a college football game. And Iowa only scored 22, and their opponent scored nothing. So that's fucking.
Dude, hey, that over could have hit. I bet it. That over could have hit.
Yeah.
It had some potential at some points. A little bit of air got taken out of the stadium. So
we're looking for 2 and 4 after this week. We're making some money, huh?
Hey, so my picks this week, I don't really care. Okay. I'm going with Georgia Southern again, -6. I'm going 3 weeks in a row.
It's either third time's the charm or insanity.
Hey, listen. I'm gonna tell you this. These guys are home. This is a home team right here. They love home games. Not big on away games. Can't really cover over there. Kind of getting embarrassed against teams they should beat. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: the guys play hard at home.
Hey, I don't know if you've ever been to Statesboro. But hey,
bring them down to South Georgia, baby. They'll find out real quick.
Hey, listen, the offensive linemen are chugging beers on the way in school buses. Okay, so they're winning. So I'm taking them. I have to roll with them again. If they don't win this week, I'm fading them every fucking week after this. Okay.
then they'll start covering.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously that's how it works, right? And then my second pick, I'm going to go Clemson -6.5. I don't know. I just love them in this spot right now against UNC. I feel like they're kind of coming into their own, and that's kind of how November is in college football. You have teams coming into their own and playing well, and then you have teams that are kind of going down. And I think UNC is kind of on the downslope. I think Clemson's on the upslope. I just think it's a good situation for Clemson. So I'm going to go with Clemson. This one's -6.5.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah, I like Clemson. They're looking good.
Hey, boys, it's been a good episode. Episode 3 is done and wrapped up. Hey, listen, guys, we got our NFL show that comes out every Thursday at 12. This show obviously comes out every Wednesday at 11. You guys keep tuning in. Keep subscribing, please. Keep liking the video. Give us some comments. Tell us what you guys think about the picks, obviously. Tell us what you think about the college football analysis. And if you like it, go ahead and subscribe and kind of share with your friends, man.
Yeah.
See y'all boys next week.
Yes, sir.
See y'all
next week.